I want to welcome everybody to the Revere Conservation Committee meeting for April 4th, 2018. I'd like to start with a roll call. James Sabone? Yeah. Ann Raponi?
Here.
Joe Laval?
Present.
Vincent Laria?
Here.
Toby Cassidy?
Present.
And I'm Nick Malason. So, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from February 7, 2018. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so continued public hearing, notice of intent DEP file number 061-0708, 1064 North Shore Road, renovation conversion of commercial building to 12 units, 12 apartments, Triple E LLC, Jamie Russo.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Corey Rhodes. I'm an attorney with D'Ambrosio Brown, LLP, 14 Proctor Avenue in Revere. First, I wanted to address the cease and desist that was issued, I think on March 30th, in regards to this property. Seems to, as far as we can see, been issued in some sort of an error. There has been absolutely no violation of the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts Law General 131, Section 40, or the Revere Wetlands Ordinance. My client has only done interior, internal renovations of the existing building at this property. And these are being conducted under a building permit that was issued by the City of Revere Inspectional and Services Department. There's been no exterior work that has been done at this property. This is all interior. No dredging, altering, filling, removing of wetlands, no moving, filling, or removing of any land in this area. Everything is being done in the interior of this building, and everything has been determined by the building official. This is the building inspector. We're operating under a valid building permit. We just hope to clear that issue up, and so we'd be happy to proceed with the NOI and get your order of conditions and answer any questions you have in regards to that, but wanted to address this issue first.
Okay. Do we have any commissioners want to speak on the cease and desist that was given on Saturday?
I'd like to ask a question. Hi.
Please, go ahead.
Hi.
At the inspection, we could hear people working. I was wondering if they were working on the ground floor underneath.
They're working in the interior of the building.
Well, but I'm specifically addressing the ground floor, not the. It looked like they were working on the second floor. Are you familiar with the building?
I've only seen it in pictures. I have not been there myself.
Well, then maybe I'll ask somebody else then. When
What would be the basis of if the work was on the ground floor or the second floor?
That's what the commission is mostly involved with, is the ground floor, as far as what's going on down there.
And with all due respect, anything that happens inside the building, unless the building is being taken down completely and reconstructed or a new building is going into place, it is outside of this commission's purview. And it just has no bearing on what the Conservation Commission decides. That's everything that falls under the building code, which was even cited in the cease and desist. Those are matters that fall before the building inspector and not the Conservation Commission.
Who issued the cease and desist?
The cease and desist was issued by Andy DeSantis.
Just to, if I could speak for a minute, Joe, just to clarify, only because I was there on Saturday with you as well, they're working on that first level, which I would say is not the basement, if that's what you're wondering. They're not working in the basement. They're working on that upper level, which would be, I guess we'd consider it the first floor, but it's above the elevation.
What was the basis of the cease and desist?
It is unclear. I cannot actually determine what violation is being cited. There is broad references to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Can you go ahead and repeat that for us?
I cannot determine what the violation is that is referenced in the cease and desist. There is broad reference to the Wetlands Protection Act. There were 2 pages that were attached to the document. One is from the wetlands regulation, but
Yeah, go ahead and speak to what it's pertaining to. I know you haven't been to the site. You just
It is a-
you're reading verbatim off of stuff you were told to read when you got here, so.
This is the entire 11th page of 310 CMR subsection 10.03.
Okay, so what are the violations that you've been told to cease?
All work at the site. The only work that is being conducted is internal to the building. There is no exterior work going on at the site that would fall under the jurisdiction of the commission.
James, a building permit was issued by City of Revere for him to do work in the interior of the building. And he issued the cease and desist to stop all work because he thought there was something going on outside, I would assume. That's why he issued the cease and desist, but no work was being done outside. It was all inside, under the building permit that was issued by the building inspector for the City of Revere.
That is correct.
So I would assume we want to make some sort of a motion to cancel the cease and desist. I don't know if we have a motion on the floor for that, to cancel the cease and desist. Because
I'll make the motion.
Toby makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by James Saboni.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, Attorney. So we need to make a vote on it? Okay. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. So we'll move on to the notice of intent.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Peter Blaisdell. I'm at Williams and Sparagus, 189 North Main Street in Milton. What I thought we would do is I'll just go over some of the changes that have been made to the plan since the last time we were here, just to summarize. And these changes are based on the comments that we received at the hearing when we were here last time, some of the back and forth emails and phone calls that I've had with Mr. DeSantis. And those are all reflected in the plans that we submitted to you the other day. So just to recap, there were some questions last time about the existing drainage system, how that all worked. And essentially what happens now is the existing catch basin that's on the site, that discharges runoff into another pump chamber. The pump chamber then discharges that into the municipal drainage system that's owned by Mass DOT, and then that ends up heading down the street and finally reaches an outfall. The other thing we were asked is, does there anything else come into this drainage system? So we were able to actually pump it down a little bit, and we did find that the roof drains from the building tie directly into the drainage system with a couple of 6-inch PVC drains. So that was just another little bit of investigation. We did determine that the pump that's in there is malfunctioned. We're not sure exactly how long it's has not been working. I know there's a couple of abutters here today. They might know better than I. Mr. Russo has owned the property since, I believe, September, and he knows it probably wasn't working for quite a while before that, too. So our goal is to fix that. Another one of the members, I believe, asked if we could try to cut down on the any sediment that comes off the property. So what we ended up doing is adding a detail of a deep sump catch basin with a hood to the plan. So that'll try to give a little more volume down below for us to capture any sediment and then head out to the drainage system and certainly into the pump chamber. The hood will then remove any additional floatables that will, not go down the pipe. So as I said, the catch basin stand is going to be replaced. I believe Mr. Petty is here. Mr. Petty was at the site visit the other day, and he asked us if we could slide the catch basin over a couple more feet away from his property line, and we said, sure, that's fine. Yeah. On the plan that you have before you, it shows where the catch basin was to be replaced the other day. I just, on my sketch here, I just showed it being pushed over a couple feet. So when we go stake that in the field for construction, we're going to move it over a little bit. And
That's the catch basin that's closest to the property line.
yeah, we're going to move that away from Mr. Petty's property line a little bit, just to draw any puddles further away from his fence. I think that was what Mr. Petty had asked for. We're going to increase the size of the pipe that goes from the catch basin to a 12-inch, so that'll actually have a little more storage capacity. It's a flat pipe, and it's only going to discharge into that drain manhole anyways, so it's not going to be any type of an issue. There was a question about the fuel fill that was on the building. We just added a note to that fuel fill is going to be sealed. We spoke with the gentleman that's going to be doing the pump work, and his recommendation, so that this doesn't happen in the future, is to install a two-pump system, a dew pump, in case one goes down, another one can pick up the slack until somebody can come fix
That's
the
in
other
that
one.
second manhole, that's on the
Right,
property.
that second manhole. So we'll put in a duplex pump system, and we'll also put in an audio and a visual alarm. So if there's a problem, there will be a panel that sticks up out of the ground that will actually let somebody know if there's a problem.
Wait, where's that,
It's
that panel system?
it's gonna be right behind the drain manhole, probably up in the landscaped area.
Closest to North Shore Road, Jim.
Yeah, who's gonna maintain that, and who's gonna maintain the hoods on the?
Well, the
catch
applicant. The applicant has to, and that'll be in your order of conditions, that the applicant is responsible for maintaining not only
Yeah,
the drainage
it's on
system,
his
but-
property.
Right. He's got to take care of the property. If it goes down, then, it's on him. The other thing Mr. DeSantis had asked us to do was, in case we have another power outage, it seems like we've had so many power outages this winter, but he asked us if there was some way we could maybe install a generator, which probably wouldn't work out, but could we then maybe add a provision to have the ability to have a portable generator brought over and plugged in to the pump system, so that if the power does go down, the applicant would have the ability to take it over, plug it in, start up the generator, and then operate.
Be able
the
to pump it out.
until the water goes down. So we thought that would be a good compromise for that issue. We did add a note to the plan that erosion control should be added before any earth-moving activity goes on the site. I don't know exactly what you'd like to use in this case. We can use hay bales, we can use silt fence, we can use mulch sock, whatever the commission wants to use, we can certainly agree to it as in the order of conditions. We did add a note to the plan from our talking to the last unit that all mechanical equipment had to be raised up above the 100-year flood elevation, so that plan is on there, and all the mechanical equipment has been moved up above that elevation. We also raised the elevation of the first floor threshold up a foot. As Mr. DeSantis asked me to look into that, and I did. There's a couple different thresholds for buildings in the area, and I spoke with the building inspector also. There's American Society of Civil Engineer requirements that they classify the building, and one of the classifications would be that you raise the finished floor elevation at least a foot above the 100-year storm. So we ended up doing that plus a little bit more, just to make sure that they do get that above. At the site visit the other day, Mr. DeSantis just asked me to please verify with him that this was in fact land subject to coastal storm flowage and was not bordering land subject to flooding. So we did go through and download all the maps and go through it again and make sure, and it is in fact land subject to coastal storm flowage. This area does flood from Broad Sound, aka Atlantic Ocean.
Did you provide copies of those
Yes, as a matter of fact,
flood maps?
okay to him, with your permission? Yes, sir. So just a brief letter and a color excerpt of a map behind. Just And so that should just, hopefully you find that substantially responses to your request for information on that. I did speak with Eric Carlson over at DCR as well, and just made sure that and he confirmed. He said if salt water is touching that area, then it's definitely land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's a lot of other things going on there with the Diamond Creek and Pines River, but ultimately that area does flood from Broad Sound. The other thing that you'll notice too is we've reconfigured, I say we, I mean the design team, the architect, has reconfigured the front So we actually have removed an additional 215 square feet of impervious area. We've added more plantings along the front of the building. So the total net decrease in impervious area with the proposed condition from what's there now is about 795 square feet, which is about 2.5 parking spaces. So it's not bad for a small lot. We're going to reduce that pavement, and I did submit some revised calculations to Mr. DeSantis showing the rate decrease in that.
Okay.
Like I said, additional plantings, we just added a few across the front of the building. I'm certainly not an agronomist. I don't have any type of idea what exactly they're going to be. If the commission likes certain plants, I know you can make some suggestions if you want to do salt tolerant species, or I certainly know Frank Stringy would love to see some Bradford pears in there. That seems to be his favorite plant, but we're certainly open to that. And then the only other change that we made was 2 more of the doors that were existing on the building are going to be sealed up. They're going to be blocked over, and new ones raised up higher. So with that being said, if anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Commissioners?
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Lynn.
The previous building, what was the heat source for that? Was it oil, gas?
I believe it was oil.
Was there an in-ground tank?
I don't think so. I think it was just a fuel fill to probably it was a standalone tank.
And how about the new building?
What's it going to be heated with? This electric heat pump. Okay. Apparently electric heat pump. There's no gas in that area, correct? So there's no gas there he can tie into.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Anyone else? No? Do I have a motion to issue an order of conditions? Notice of intent? Yeah. Okay. Anybody in the audience want to speak? Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
Indrasano, I'm representing Mr. Patty and some of the abutters. I had a question as to, the last time we were here, they were going to put a wall up, okay? Which it's not going to happen at this point. But they said they would put crushed stone
Correct.
on the boundary. Is that going to still stay the same?
Crushed stone is still going to stay the same, yeah. We were talking about mulch, but we said we didn't want that to end up in anyone's sediment, yeah? Yeah, crushed stone, yeah,
That'd be great. We have no problem with that.
yeah.
And the other thing is my client's land is registered land, okay? And the boundaries that he has on his plan shows about 1 foot. And their survey says there's a 3-foot difference.
Okay.
And I'd like to have that clarified in the order of conditions or whatever. Well,
Can you just, I'm sorry, can you just tip the microphone a little?
okay. His plan shows, okay, that there's a 1-foot difference on the lot lines, okay? You say that they're encroaching
By 3 feet.
3 feet, which is not so. I'd like to have that squared
I
away.
can certainly look into it with Mr. Patty, but
Okay.
it's nothing really that's...
Okay, because you have unregistered and he has registered, okay?
Yeah,
Which
I
is-
mean, I
Okay.
used Mr. Patty's plan.
Okay.
And all the
Okay.
other plans in the area to compile the perimeter.
Okay, basically, that's all we have.
Okay, thank you, Attorney.
So, thank you.
I'm fine.
You're fine with everything? Okay, great. Anybody else like to speak on this? We have a motion to issue the notice of intent, issue the order of conditions? A motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Do I have a motion to issue the orders of condition, the notice of intent?
I'll second it.
You're going to make the motion.
Oh, I didn't make the motion. He
Yeah.
didn't make, I thought he did. I'll make the motion.
You'll make the motion to issue the order? Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Vinnie Lauria seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Andy, do I got to sign this first or last? Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing. Notice of intent, DEP file number 0610709, 320, 327 Revere Beach Boulevard. Demolition of existing structures and construction of mixed-use development consisting of 145 residential units and 2,500 square foot of residential retail or parking on grade. Was this the one that, continuance? All right, we're going to continue this one till next month. We have a motion to continue to next month? Is there anyone in the audience want to speak on this matter now? It's going to be, they asked for continuance until next month. If anyone wants to speak, they can.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Deborah Habig-Schneck. I am a unit owner of 2 units at 350 Revere Beach Boulevard, which abuts the new 320 Revere Beach Boulevard projected building. And I did want to just raise right now that as the Revere Conservation Committee, Massachusetts has one of the most stringent wetlands environmental codes in the entire United States. And yes, under home rule, you will make decisions. And we are very concerned about the area behind 320 Revere Beach Boulevard. If I understand the State Wetlands Protection Act, it does impose restrictions and oversight of real estate development in or near coastal waterways. And we are here on Revere Beach Boulevard on a coastal area, but we also have the wetlands behind us. And we also have the inland waterway between Revere and Lynn that allows water to filter in on the inland waterway. And I understand that you have the right to consider with an order of condition the building of this property, but I also understand we have a, and I'm not clear, we do have a local conservation agent in the Revere Conservation Committee who should know what the restrictions are that would apply to 320 Revere Beach Boulevard projected construction. So one of my questions, and maybe can be answered at the next continued meeting, is, well, what are those restrictions? I've looked up my maps. I believe it's parcel 49, that area that is behind 320 and 350 Revere Beach Boulevard. I think I understand we are on a 100-year floodplain, so that is a question. Are we on a 100-year floodplain? And I know that your Revere ordinance is due to codify the Wetlands Protection Act, which, in no offense to anybody on the committee, I understand you know what you are doing. But I see that pursuant to Planning Board versus Springfield, an old case, the Supreme Judicial Court did note that only in a rare instance should you consider, and under exceptional circumstances, granting and allowing something that is generally restricted use. So I have questions on, do we have a 100 floodplain behind us? If there's 100 foot, if we are 100 feet from a wetland area, that's considered a buffer zone. And Chara has asked for a variance on the rear yard setback of, which was required, a minimum of 30 feet. And it appears that they may be granted this variance. However, there are cases that have said even if it's 6 feet, you should not grant a variance if your rules and ordinances indicate that there must be a minimum of 30 feet. And that would be for building. My concern is the area behind us and what would be considered a buffer zone from the wetlands. Is the building within a 100-foot measurement from the wetlands?
From the
In which
wetlands.
case, granting an order of condition might even be questionable and it should be denied. So there are questions I have. There will be a continuance, but it's something that if it could be addressed by the various
We can make sure it's addressed
members,
for the
that
next
would be-
meeting. Yeah.
We would like to know those things.
No problem. We can
Thank
make
you.
sure it's addressed for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else like to speak? Should I have a motion to continue this hearing till next month?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Next item is a public hearing. All those in favor? Next item is a public hearing, ANRAD DEP file number 0610710, CBW Lending LLC, 190 VFW Parkway.
And the request determination of applicability if you want to vote for the same property. Once a public hearing,
Oh, so there's two of them?
right after each other. First one's the unread, and the second one is the,
So the next one is a public meeting for RDA Global Companies.
yeah, and this putting the RDA on there, but there's supposed to be an RDA on 190 VFW Parkway.
Yeah, so it's number 7? Okay. So we're going to take up number 5 and number 7 at the same time, a public hearing and a public meeting. Yeah, you skipped them. We'll take them both up at the same time to,
Get stuff as soon as I finish the first
Yeah.
one, just get it back in my file. Sure. Thank you. Good evening, Ann McMenemy from Hancock Associates, here representing several items for the applicant at 190 VFW Parkway, which everybody knows is the old Wonderland dog track. The applicant is excuse me, I always mix this up, CWB Lending LLC. If I could, there was a new item that came up on Monday through Mr. DeSantis that I think it might be important to address before we dive into the current filings here. Mr. DeSantis sent me an email and had noticed that there may be potential wetland violations on the property. We've looked into that this week, and we're not sure exactly where a potential violation may be, but we did recognize that the erosion controls certainly needed to be refreshed. They've been out there for more than a half a year and had started to disintegrate, especially the straw wattles. The materials have been ordered, and the contractor will be on site on Saturday installing fresh ones. We'll probably leave the old straw wattles in place and just put the new ones up right next to it. Mr. DeSantis has suggested that potentially the commission may want to schedule a site walk to review the condition out there. He noted that the site is generally unkept. It is. It's demolished, partially demolished. There hasn't been any activity out there for 5 months on the demolition. But in any case, I thought we might want to address this issue before we dig into the ANRAD and the RDA.
so what do we want to do?
Could there be a substitute to hay bales,
Excuse me?
using hay bales for erosion control?
We could, but the problem is a lot of things are being positioned on the edge of pavement, so there's not an ability to entrench the erosion control to allow for its full function. If for the water flow through, it would still go underneath it. There's no slope out there, so the straw wattles, some of them are in soil and fill along the edge of the Eastern County ditch.
What about coir logs?
Coir rolls, we could certainly use those. Those are typically used more for stabilization than for erosion control. There's no slope or exposed soil that's, a direct threat to the main wetland out there, the Eastern County ditch, but, we're open to putting adequate protection in place of any type of measure.
Where does the overland flow go?
To the Eastern County ditch?
Okay, so that should be the priority,
Yes.
your erosion control.
And Mr. DeSantis had forwarded the order of conditions that was put in place for the demolition. And unfortunately, it's just an 11 by 17 that I have here, but it showed a line of erosion controls all along the Eastern County ditch here, and then just several catch basin silt socks, and we'll be replacing those as well.
What frequency?
Right now, we're replacing them currently as we speak for this Saturday, and then we'll have to evaluate, how they deteriorate going forward and how fast the demolition moves forward for, what the need is for them to be there. But we can certainly put in place some sort of inspection with a date tied to it so that we don't have this situation occur again.
Is there anything around the catch basins so that they don't, the socks don't accumulate?
You mean like additional erosion controls?
Right.
No, there isn't, but we could certainly install a line of straw wattles
That would be my
in front of it.
recommendation.
Okay. It was, there's only actually a couple catch basins that have the silt sacks in them, but I've got 2 actually identified on the plan that was put in place with the order of conditions.
Why are there only 2?
Because those are the areas closest to the Eastern County ditch, that are discharging directly to it, that are in proximity to the demolition. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we're going to have anyone want to make a motion to continue this to next month to have a site visit?
I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We'll have a site visit probably, most likely it's the Saturday before, correct, Andy? We'll do a site visit the Saturday before the next hearing.
Okay.
So we can go over everything then and then continue this next month.
Okay, very good. We'll look forward to the notification of the time.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so next is a public meeting for RDA Global Companies LLC, 40 Lieber Brake Highway, contaminated soil cleanup and remediation.
Sorry to interrupt, I still have my ANRAD. and-
Okay, oh yeah, let's do that first, I'm sorry.
Here's the- Okay, Ann
So that's
McMenamy
number
from
7.
Hancock Associates, here to represent an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation at 190 VFW Parkway for the applicant CBW Lending LLC. The DP has issued a file number with no comments except that they're waiting for the fee to clear revenue, which seems to be the comment they issue on all of these. It is number 061-0710. And
Okay. I'm sorry, what was it, 061?
061-0710.
And we're going to do the same with this, we're going to continue it till, have a motion to continue it till next month.
Okay.
Do a site visit, and then we'll talk about it then.
Okay, so you don't want me to present right now on it?
Yep, we'll do it all next month.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to continue this hearing to next month?
I make a motion to
Ian
continue
makes a
this till next month.
Second.
Vinnie continues, seconds it.
Okay, so we will hear the request for determination of applicability for vegetation removal now, or?
We're going to,
No, just I went through the potential violation, and now we just touched the ANRAD, so I just have my trifecta, the third one. Okay. so
I'll
no
continue till next
presentation on
month.
that right now, either
Correct.
then?
Yep,
Okay,
we'll do everything next month.
okay.
All right, thank you. So now we have number 6, RDA Global Companies, 40 Lee Burbank Highway, contaminated soil cleanup and remediation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dan Bremser. I'm a registered land surveyor, degreed engineer with Hancock Associates out of the Marlborough office. Here with me tonight is Steve Sharon, who is an environmental manager for Global Companies, and John Dick, who is a mostly retired wetland scientist from Hancock Associates, that I think you folks all know. Has worked with Steve on a number of projects over the years, and so he's here with us tonight. So just basically to familiarize you with the site, there's actually 3 separate ownerships. The area where the spill was falls mainly on property owned by the Revere urban oil terminals.
Yeah, just so we can hear you a little better.
So the property line runs down here and this way here. This portion of the property is Irving Oil. This is the MBTA, and Global's property is this triangular, is heading back this way here. So basically, the applicant is proposing to excavate soils impacted with fuel oil for illegal off-site disposal, backfill to existing grade with clean fill, and in-kind restoration of surface areas to return the site to the pre-disturbance condition. All impact and material management will be performed in accordance with the Mass Contingency Plan, the MCP, and it's going to be overseen by a licensed site professional, LSP. The scope of work is temporary in nature, and the site will be returned to the existing condition with the net benefit of clean soils contributing to improved water quality to surrounding wetland resources. As such, we respectfully request that the Commission issue a negative determination permitting the work to proceed as characterized in our RDA.
Just one question, is it going to be contaminated soils, will they be live loaded or stockpiled on site?
I'll let Steve address.
Yeah, we will recharacterize
If you could just go to the microphone, sir, please. State your name and address for the record.
Steve Sharon with Global Companies at 140 Lee Burbank Highway.
Thank you.
Yep. You know, the plan will be to pre-characterize and attempt to live load. The only limitation would be if the soils have too much water in them that we need to just stockpile them. And we identified a location for that with everything around it. But historically, we typically live load.
What's the depth of the excavation?
We put in the thing that could go as far as 5 feet, but more than likely, the groundwater table we've encountered out there is about 2 feet or so.
So the soils will be wet.
Yeah, but we
So-
hopefully don't need to dig too deep into the water table.
Yeah, but they're gonna be wet.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to live load them.
Yeah, so again, the ones that are below the water table, if they are saturated to a
Portion of
certain
the
rate.
contaminated soils, you won't be
Yeah.
able to live load.
Yeah.
Right, so will they be put in lined roll-off containers, or will they be stockpiled on site?
Yeah, again, I guess it probably determines the conditions we encountered and the volumes. You know, we've used line roll-offs before. We've also just used poly, sticking it on the poly and wrapping it.
All right, well, there are different requirements based on what methodology you use. So it would be nice if we knew what the procedure was gonna be.
Specifically in terms of which one of those we're going to go with?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a preference, then we could do that.
Well, my preference would be to put them in a line
Line
roll-off,
roll-off.
so there's no risk of it. You know, I've seen contaminated stockpiles covered with plastic that the plastic just blows off. And the
Yeah,
contaminated soil will just, has a direct conduit to a surface water body.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is that situation, which you've probably seen, is we want to get them out of there. Irving wants the soil out of there too. So if we're not able to live load it directly, it will be gone within a week or two. And, you know, we go down to the dock all the time, so there's people walking by that. So we can easily implement kind of inspection and maintenance of that, for that. But obviously, that is a concern too. And from an LSP perspective, that's not allowed. You know, the soil's supposed to remain covered.
Yeah, but the LSP isn't gonna be out there 24/7 every day.
I hope not.
So I have a motion for a negative determination to public meeting. So is there any comments from the audience, from anybody in the, come on up, please. If you can just come to the microphone and state your name and address, please, for the record.
Yeah, my name is Gail Miller. I am with Friends of Belle Isle Marsh, and I know we've been working with the oil companies and various facets of activities with them and their companies. I would just like to, I just have a question. What is the volume that we're talking about of removal?
Well, I think part of that, we're not going to know until we actually get into the excavation. The area, and I can, Steve, did Matt have approximate volumes, or?
Yeah, I mean, we put in here, I think we put a maximum of 2,000 yards, if that was.
All right, that's a lot of soil.
Yeah, but
That's the first we've heard of the volume of soil.
okay, let me just see what we put in here.
So that's,
So what the scenario is that we've delineated the impacts up to the property line with the MBTA.
Right.
The impacts that are present at that point suggest that we need to step on the MBTA property a little bit to successfully clean up the whole thing. We didn't want to go out and just, you know, our idea is that it doesn't extend too far over the line, given the nature of the spill and the levels that we find on the property line.
Right.
But to do this, we just drew the line a little bit bigger so that if necessary,
yeah, so potentially you could have 2,000 yards of soil. That's a big stockpile.
we have plenty of room out there for something like that. I mean, we do, you know, for the area that we've identified extends all the way to Lee Burbank Highway. There's plenty of open space.
I'd like to motion if the rest of the commission doesn't mind, to issue a negative determination with conditions that the stockpiled soil be monitored by an LSP on a weekly basis.
Yes, perfectly fine. That's reasonable.
So you're making the motion?
A negative determination with condition, with a
Okay.
condition.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I second his motion.
Okay. All right, we'll make a copy of this and get it to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we have a public hearing, notice of intent DEP file 06107XX, Lehigh Hospitality LLC, 405 American Legion Highway, demolition of existing car wash and construction of a 5-story, 110-room hotel with 87 parking spaces. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? We have a motion to open the public hearing?
Open up
Make a
the
motion.
public hearing.
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Will you name and address for the record, please, sir?
Good evening. My name is Scott Rogers from J.K. Holmgren Engineering, Brockton, Mass. Here to represent Lehigh Hospitality LLC. Would the board prefer a full presentation at this time?
Yes.
So the property in question is 405 American Legion Highway, currently utilized as existing Revere Carwash. In the rear of the site, there's a existing bordering vegetated wetlands, which is vegetated with mostly Phragmites, a marshy area. The site is partially also within a land subject to coastal storm flowage or a Zone AE flood zone. But the actual development part of the site is not within that. The elevation of that flood zone is elevation 10.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
Phragmites, is that BVW?
In the BVW, correct.
Okay.
The site is also, elevation-wise, far above that elevation 10, approximately 17, one of the lowest points of the catch basin on the site. The topography of the site, it's relatively flat, some sloping areas that go towards the street. There's also 3 existing low points on the property, existing catch basins. There's a relatively small retaining wall in the rear of the property that we will be maintaining that basically sort of encompasses the area of the wetlands in the wetland resource areas. So the proposal for you tonight is for a proposed hotel, 5-story hotel, 110 room. You can see on the rendering, it's an L-shaped building, and the brand is an Avid brand by the company IHG. There are parking areas along the eastern side of the site. Towards the north or the back of the property, there also is a ground level parking area with the hotel above that. There's additional parking on the front of the site along the street for a total of 87 parking spaces. Currently the car wash site is basically paved up to that existing retaining wall with the wetlands pretty much right behind that. We are proposing to remove some of that pavement in the rear, add some additional landscape areas. I should point out to you that the existing green space on the property is about 27% of the site. With the proposed development, we'll be looking at about 38%, so that's a pretty decent increase in green space. The actual hotel and parking areas will be graded to match pretty much the existing topography. There's not a lot of cuts or fills or slopes or any additional retaining walls proposed. We will be making some adjustments to the existing catch basins and manhole rims to adjust those up and down, within inches, basically. We are proposing new utilities to the hotel. There'll be a new gas service that runs in. There'll be a new 6-inch ductile iron water line. The building will be sprinkled, of course, and there'll be a new 2-inch domestic service for water as well. We will also be upgrading telephone, electric, and data services to the building. And sewer services, there's an existing sewer line that runs sort of parallel with American Legion Highway. We're going to basically cutting that back, installing a new manhole, and then running that sewer line to the north into the hotel. As far as storm drainage, we are proposing the building will be connected via roof drains to an underground infiltration system located towards the rear. This will help improve the stormwater, groundwater recharge to the site.
What's the depth of groundwater?
It's approximately down 8 feet or so.
So you're confident with the infiltration capacity?
Yes, yes, we did test pits on the property. We are going to install some small yard drains in the landscaped areas to help basically catch some of the runoff, but essentially most of the existing stormwater system that's out there will be maintained but improved. So we feel that with the increase in the green space, the reduction in the pavement, there is an existing water quality unit on the site that we're going to maintain and clean, and the addition of the infiltration system. We also have an O&M plan that was submitted along with the drainage report, that there'll be some vast improvements in the existing stormwater system on site. As far as erosion control, we are planning on installing a stabilized construction exit. We will be putting around the perimeter of the site, the rear area, some silt socks. We also have shown on our erosion control plan parking areas, construction trailer. We've denoted a stockpile area with erosion control sediment barrier around that as well. We're also showing some temporary sediment basins located towards the rear of the property with swales and stone check dams that'll get the runoff that'll head towards the back of the site into temporary sediment basins to allow that to handle the sediment and not, discharge off-site essentially.
Can you elaborate on that system?
Which system now?
Sediment?
So what we'll do is, everything pretty much sheet flows towards the rear with the exception of a small area that goes towards a catch basin and a trench drain. But we're going to basically create some swales along the front and towards the rear to 2 temporary sediment basins that'll
What do you mean
handle.
temporary sediment basins?
They'll be there during construction until we're ready to fill up those areas and pave, essentially. So they'll be for the majority of the
Construction duration.
Yes. We're also proposing to install silt sacks on the existing catch basins to help silt from entering that existing drainage system. And we're showing some staging areas on our erosion control plan as well.
No. Temporary sediment basins, are they, how are they sized?
The temporary sediment basins are sized to handle 3,600 cubic feet between the two of them.
How many inches of water?
I believe it's 1 inch times the pavement area.
And there are no impacts to BBW?
No, in fact, we'll be pulling back the development from that edge of retaining wall and that edge of that BVW, so there'll be improvements to that area.
Can you elaborate on the significant improvements to the stormwater system that you referenced?
So currently, right now, we have catch basins with manholes. There's a stormwater quality unit at the low end of the property. So we are obviously developing the site, but we are increasing green space, decreasing pavement on site. Between that method and the use of the infiltration system, which will handle the building runoff essentially, that'll take that part out of that equation that goes towards the discharge. In addition to that, we have an O&M plan which will be implemented to help maintain the system that's there now, the existing one, as well as the proposed infiltration system, so it'll be maintained on a regular basis.
But they discharge to outfalls, correct?
There's currently an existing manhole that runs down the street to the west of us, in between us and the, I believe it's not a Jiffy Lube, it's the name escapes me, but it's the oil change business next door to us. And then we created a landscape plan which will include shade and street trees. We are aware of the neighbors to the east of us, and we are proposing some screening to help mitigate those impacts of our parking area located adjacent to them, as well as proposing some new lawn areas, deciduous, broadleaf evergreen shrubs, flowering shrubs. And then with the areas towards the rear of the property where we are able to remove pavement and add green space back in, we are proposing some buffer zone enhancement plantings in the form of sassafras trees, bayberry, and beach plum. Just to give you an idea of where we're at with our permitting, obviously we filed with this board. We have also filed with DOT. Because we're on a state highway, we will need a DOT permit. We'll be basically improving that entrance, I guess improving by widening it a little bit. But we'll be handling mostly the left-hand side as you come into the site. We're only moving the curbing over a foot or two. On the right-hand side, we'll be making that radius a lot broader for vehicles and for fire truck access as well.
So there's no sort of turning lane, it's just you're widening the entrance and improving the radius.
That's correct, yeah. In accordance with DOT standards. And we are also going to file with site plan review probably within the next 2 weeks or so to have our hearing for that as well. So at this point, I'd like to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. I'm looking at the plan, and it looks as though that access and egress is only on that one spot where I don't see any vegetation on the American Legion Highway in the lower end. Is that correct? Right, between those two yellow trees, yeah. So that's the only access and egress is right there?
No, that's not. We have additional access
On Pomona Street, is that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Would you repeat that?
There's additional access off Pomona Street, which is currently there. We'll be improving that entrance, if you will, by adding landscape over the side of that.
That two-way? So, and the highway is also both access and egress?
Correct. It's obviously a one-way section of the roadway, so it's enter in and right turn out only.
How is it presently?
So American Legion Highway is a divided highway, so you're able to enter from the south into the site, and then when you leave the site, you're able to exit and head north.
I see. And then the other question I had, so but actually you're creating a Pomona Street access that wasn't utilized before, is that correct?
No, that's currently there today. Scott, do you have a existing site plan? I do.
It's C2 on the plans. Drawing C2.
Correct. So this plan shows the existing conditions plan. You can see the car wash located along American Legion Highway, the rear area back here where you enter the car wash, or one of the bays. And then over here, Pomona Street, pardon me. There's one section of curbing, if you will, on this end. The rest of it's basically wide open pavement, so there's not really a super defined exit or entrance point other than that one little radius right there.
And you intend to reduce that to a definite curb?
Correct.
In and out? Because I noticed there was all vegetation shown on the plan.
Yes, there'll be new curbing, a new landscape there along there, you can see.
The other question I had regard to parking, if we could go back to that plan that you had shown originally, but also it's enlightening to look at the other plan that you just unveiled, the actual building itself, because I got part of my question answered. The parking under the building is only on one angle, and then the other angle goes all the way down to the ground. Is that correct?
So on this rendering, the area back here, the L.
Yeah, that's parking.
Underneath it, correct, on ground level,
And that's,
the hotel above.
That's the present elevation that we have now?
Within inches, yeah, we're talking about cuts and fills less than a foot.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what's the proposal for demoing the existing car wash, removal of the floor drains, and that process?
As part of the construction, we'll have a demolition contract that'll be doing all that work.
So there's, I would imagine there's got to be some anticipated contamination associated with an operating car wash. It's been there for many years.
That may be the case. We'll have to address that as we start to dig things up, I suppose. We're not aware of any contamination on the site.
There hasn't been any phase one ASTM due diligence investigation?
I believe there may have been previously, but I don't have that with me tonight.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I just thought of something else too. Was there a water recycling on the car wash?
I believe there is. It's an older car wash, but I believe there is a recycling unit.
Because that might mean that there's some sort of reservoir system underneath. I would assume it would be under
Yeah, there's holding tanks on the
Yeah.
existing conditions plan. You can see them, they're kind of central to the property, but there's also floor drains within the car wash where all the wastewater discharges to. So I'm not sure what the existing treatment was, if any, when this was constructed. Probably not. So I think it would be safe to assume that you're going to find some contamination on site.
Ann, do you want to speak?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the egress and access exits there. One will be exiting and entering from American Legion Highway, both ways. And the other exit will be to Pomona Street,
That's correct.
but you won't be able to enter there from Pomona. You can just exit onto Pomona. Could you explain that, please?
Sure. The entrance exit on Pomona, you can see right here behind this yellow tree, will be two-way. You'll be able to enter from Pomona Street, into the parking area. You'll also be able to exit.
And when you exit Pomona Street, you could take a left or a right,
That's correct.
and I could end up back on American Legion Highway or further onto Pomona Street. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
James, you got something else?
Well, I don't see how we can issue an order of conditions when there hasn't been a phase one due diligence investigation, because it could be, it's quite possible when they do their due diligence that this could be an MCP site.
Okay.
So then they're going to be required to remediate contamination under the observation of an LSP. So I don't think we know enough about the condition of the site to issue an order of conditions. We don't know what type of erosion control we're going to need. We don't know what kind of contamination is out there. There's a resource area directly behind the site, adjacent to Naples Road, consisting of BVW. So I just don't think there has been enough due diligence on this to warrant an order of conditions at this time.
Anybody else? Anyone from the audience like to speak? Come on up, please.
My name is Rita Salamina. I'm one of the main abutters. I live at 30 Abruzzi Street. A few things that were addressed already, I can tell you. Pomona Street, when it comes out, when you come down American Legion Highway, say you wanted to go to 107, many times, and it's happened to me too, people are coming around the rotary, and they're trying to cut right across you.
Pomona Street is the street that runs behind the billboard
That's-
and Revere Tannin, correct?
That's correct. So when they come out that way, they're coming out here, there's no, do you know where the gas station is when you're
Correct.
going on 107?
Yep.
That's Pomona, right?
Okay.
So when they come out, if they want to take a right, that's fine. But if they want to enter that, people coming around the rotary cut everybody else off. And half the time, no blinkers, major accident there, huge problem there. So that, as far as an exit goes, not very good.
It might be something that's a little bit beyond what we can do, you know what I mean?
That's
As far as having an entrance or an exit.
No,
that's something
you
that would
had
probably
asked,
have to-
so I
yeah.
figured I'd let you know.
That'd probably be something on the site plan review or with the city council that to make
No,
that
Mass DOT.
exit
when they-
only or something.
They need to get a permit from Mass DOT.
Also, when, I've owned my home for 40 years, I'm one of the main abutters. When they did the car wash, they told us what they did with the water from the car wash and everything was ran it down to the drains at 107.
Okay.
If it's going to be 110 rooms, is it going to go the same way? That's a very big concern for me.
Okay.
And sewerage-wise, too. I mean, I don't want it going into the drain that runs down to Brucey Street, obviously. The last nor'easter that we had a serious problem. I've been there for 40 years. I looked out of my house, and the ocean was coming at me. First time I've ever seen it in 40 years. Scared the living daylights out of me. So I want to make sure, and this is your baby here, that we have water situations that aren't going to impact my home, too, by putting something like this on it. So
I
that's
understand.
my concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So do we want, you want to come up, Gil? Go ahead.
Again, I'm Gail Miller with Friends of Belle Isle Marsh. We like to partner up with folks interested in Rumney Marsh, and I am assuming you're abutting Rumney Marsh, are you not? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Should be, everyone on the commission should know that Rumney Marsh is an area of critical environmental concern.
correct. So were you referring perhaps to the 21E site that should be mandated for, is that requested usually in a transfer of property?
Well,
A
on
21E
any
test?
transfer of property, you should conduct a phase one due diligence. That doesn't relate to the MCP. It's more for the sale and transfer of the property. But during the phase one due diligence, you can encounter contamination that's above reportable concentrations as they apply to the MCP. So
Know that there has been a transfer of property. It's still B&G, B&G Realty Trust owns this property.
So there's been no transfer?
Well, it's the same owner as the house.
Oh, so they're developing the hotel?
Maybe a transfer at some point. I don't know if they've got a lease. It's really not germane to the hearing here.
Yeah, so, all right, so I'm going to let that pass, and I'm sure you will do that.
I think what James
Oversight.
is referring to, when they start ripping these drains out, what's going to come up with it?
Yeah. Okay, and with regard to any landscaping there, we would suggest strongly that native species plantings are used, not kind of the commercial stuff that comes out of, your roadside plants that you might buy, but we want native species as much as possible to be introduced there. And in Boston, we're talking about, with all the development that's going on and potentially for Suffolk Downs, Boston Concom, as you probably know, Andy, is very concerned about bird strikes and height, the height of these buildings. given the fact that this appears to be 5 stories, it's significant, I think, enough in height that we would be happy if they would address the window, whatever window applications can be provided there for eliminating bird strikes, because Rumney is, quite a wonderful bird habitat, of course. So that is something that I think would be helpful to demand of the developers. That seems to be a common thread among, buildings of significant height. And I just wanted to clarify, was the 5-story in addition to a level of parking? So that would actually be 6 stories or 7 stories, or no? I wasn't quite clear.
I believe it is. You get one level of parking, which is ground level with 5 floors above it, correct?
5
So
stories.
that
total.
level of parking is considered 1 story, one of the 5, okay. Okay.
Okay, and then another concern, I wasn't quite certain about all the, presentation you made, but I would request, and I hope the commission would request, that the discharge waters off the site would not travel in the direction of the Rumney Marsh reservation.
I don't think there is any discharge allowed to an ACEC.
No, it shouldn't be, of course,
I
but
think by law, it's not allowed, so.
I couldn't tell whether they were proposing that it would be, or it was going to be surface into storm
Sounds like
drains.
they're gonna utilize the existing storm drain system.
Okay.
Correct? But improve it.
But improve it, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
you
Well,
can't
improvements
discharge
are
the
always
ACEC.
welcome. All right. And those are just some of the concerns and
Thank
things
you.
I'd like to mention. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? So what is the will of the commission?
I like the motion for a continuance until there's due diligence on the site conditions of the soil.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Joe Laval. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A motion to close the public hearing? Oh, no, we're going to continue it, I'm sorry. We're going to continue it till next month. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to continue it until, we're going to continue it until you guys make a determination of the investigation of what James wants to, not what James wants to know.
If I can get a hold of the existing Phase 1 that was done, will that satisfy the commission's request?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, public hearing, notice of intent, DEP file 06107XX, the McClellan Highway Development Company, LLC, Tomasello Drive, interim MBTA bus stop. Have a motion to open a public hearing?
I'll make a motion open.
And I'll second it.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike Borowski with the HYM Investment Group. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm joined by Doug Manns and Seamus Joyce of HYM, and also Stacy Minahan with Beals & Thomas, our civil engineer. So before I focus on our notice of intent, I just want to give a brief update on where we are in our permitting activities for Suffolk Downs. We did recently receive approval from the City Council for our zoning overlay district. We did recently receive approval from the City Council for the Suffolk Downs Overlay District, which is obviously an exciting feat for us. We continue to work with our consultants on improving our master plan, and we do expect to be back in front of the City Council in June. So in terms of this project, what we're proposing is an interim bus stop on Tomasello Drive. So I preface this by saying this project came to us from Councilor McKenna, who I know is not here tonight, but was very instrumental in pushing us towards this project. So what we're doing is we're bringing a bus stop, interim bus stop for bus 119 to stop on Tomasello Drive adjacent to the shopping plaza on Tomasello Drive. And this is really to accommodate the shoppers who use bus 119 to access the shopping center and who currently have to walk back all the way to Winthrop Avenue with their bags. So we see this as clearly as a benefit to the community, anyone who uses the shopping plaza. Right now I'll summarize what those improvements entail. So we are creating a bus stop along Tomasello, which would entail an additional 2-foot strip of sidewalk. That's to bring the sidewalk from 6 feet to 8 feet for ADA accessibility. We're also creating 2 ADA ramps. The bus stop will be located adjacent to the shopping plaza's rear driveway. So right now, the crossing of that driveway with the sidewalk is not accessible. It has no ADA ramps, so we're going to add those. And then on the opposite side of Tomasello Drive, we would add a bus turnaround. So the bus would stop along Tomasello, drop and pick up, and then there'd be a turnaround on our property also, and then head back out to Winthrop Avenue. I will say that all of these improvements all are on previously disturbed land. So I just wanted to point that out to the commission. We have reviewed all of these improvements with the MBTA. We've worked closely with them. So these are, everything would be constructed and designed to their specs. The idea is that the bus stop would be open as early as this summer. So again, I think it's exciting for the area and for the residents who've been talking to Councilor McKenna and us about this being a need in the area. I can answer any questions, but that's really the summary, or I can go through the plans in more detail.
Any questions?
No, sounds great. I'll make a motion
Make a motion to issue the
to
notice
close
of
the
intent.
hearing and issue an order of conditions.
And I second it with pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll get a copy of this to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is public hearing, notice of intent, DEP file 06107XX, Gate Residential Properties LLC, 20-50, 40 Ocean Avenue, 5 levels of residential spaces above 2 levels of parking. Excuse me.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates representing Gate Residential Properties. This item is somewhat connected to the next item, but we have submitted them as individual separate notices of intent, but it is one project that will proceed in unison by the same developer. So the first is 2050 Ocean Avenue. On this plan, just making sure I'm in the right orientation. It's the kind of square parcel that is on the top of the page. So it's only on Ocean Avenue. Okay. It's currently developed with about a 20,000 square foot parking lot and just a grass area. So developed, but there's no buildings upon it. The proposal would be for a residential apartment community to be, or building to be established on the 0.74 acre parcel with 2 levels of parking, with 5 levels of apartments over it. We are here before this commission because this whole area is land subject to coastal storm flowage or floodplain. Generally, the lot is elevation 5 to elevation 6, and the floodplain is elevation 11 and elevation 12. It's kind of a dividing line in the general area. So similar to some other projects that we've presented to this commission, that The lower level will allow floodwaters to come in and out. We have the requisite openings in the sides of the building for that to happen, and that's what's proposed here. All of the residential units are, again, on the third level, so well above any of that floodplain. And all it will have touching the ground is the elevator lobbies, stairwell towers, and the structure, the stilts, that, if you will, that hold up the building. We are proposing to install some drainage improvements. There is currently a drain line from the abutting property that runs through a portion of the property. We're relocating that and keeping it isolated from our drainage. We do have a small 1,500 square foot pavement area that's not under the building that will have catch basin that'll be equipped with a hydrodynamic separator, and that will flow out to the existing municipal drain system. We are taking on this site, again, 20,000 square feet of untreated pavement and replacing it with roof, which is considered clean. And again, that 1,500 square feet of new exterior pavement that we will have treated. We are providing infiltration recharge in full compliance with DEP stormwater requirements for the volume that we need to provide, and that'll be done along the side of the building through subsurface rain tanks that will take our roof drainage. That will have an overflow into the municipal system, and we've been dealing with Mr. Rystrom on the design of that, and it's designed to attenuate the 25-year storm. So it handles the 2 and 10 in accordance with DEP standards, the 25 in accordance with Revere's requirements, and provisions for the 100 years as well. We have done geotechnical exploration out there. The water table's between 5 and 7 feet below the surface, so we, while we're tight, but we are confident we have the separation and the material that's down there is conducive to infiltration. So that's essentially the basics of the project. I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions by the commissioners?
Yeah, I have some
James?
questions. If I may? So your soil testing results indicated presence of VOCs, carcinogens, toluene, PCE, MEK, PAHs, TPH. Also, your groundwater sampling, you identified VOCs, EPH carbon range, VPH carbon range, RCRA 8 metals, total undissolved. So I'd like to know what's the procedure for dewatering. Groundwater chemical testing does not require, it's not a reportable condition. But what type of sediment control and site control activities do you propose during construction?
For superficial, it's fairly standard. We don't have, there's not a lot of earthwork going on from the standpoint of changing the grades. So we have excavation for footings and foundations. We have excavations for the stormwater management system and other utilities. So we think as far as site perimeter controls, standard siltation fence and straw wattles. And then on the existing municipal catch basins, silt sacks. When we get into excavation for some of the deeper utilities for water lines and sewer, where we will encounter groundwater, then we will have to dewater, most likely into one of those municipal receiving catch basins, if you will.
Sorry.
I'm
You're in
sorry.
full compliance with the stormwater standards, which includes a component of infiltration, correct?
Yes.
So are any of those proposed infiltration areas near any of areas of low-level contamination to possibly mobilize the contaminants on site?
I haven't looked at that directly, but all of the levels that I understand were below reportable levels as far as
So then
not
you're-
needing remediation and are, as I
So that
said,
makes it acceptable to infiltrate in those locations?
we believe it does. There's no preclusions to having to do that. If there were levels that would rise to that level, then it'd have to be an AUL. If there was an AUL, we would have to, and there was a preclusion within the AUL, then we would actually get a
Deed restriction.
well, it would be deed restricted, but under DEP stormwater guidelines, would be able to opt out of meeting the recharge requirement because it wasn't possible.
Okay, thanks. I just had one other question that, I know I saw it in your other submittal, but I was looking for the evaluation of any illicit connections.
Just an illicit discharge statement? or-
Yeah, there's usually a signature page
Yeah.
acknowledging that there aren't any illicit connections.
Yeah, it's at the end of the stormwater management report, before the Appendix I stormwater checklist. My copy's not signed.
Yeah, mine isn't either, so.
We have the proponent here, who will be the person certifying to that, and we'll make sure that
Okay, so,
your record is complete with a signed copy of that.
correct, but we don't have that now.
I could do it now.
Okay,
Have them sign it, I can tear it out of the book and
that'd be great.
give it to Andy.
Yep. Oh, it's only the official one, he can have that one.
Have them sign this one? Sure.
Give us the one he signed, and you keep that one. Perfect. Is that it, Jay? Is that all you got?
That's all I have.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yes, I'm speaking specifically about the narrow parcel that fronts the boulevard.
Right, that's the next hearing.
That's gonna be the next one.
They're
Well,
two,
the-
yeah, two
Yeah,
separate ones.
right now, we're just on the Ocean Ave property, Joe. Anybody from the audience want to speak? I have a motion to issue the order of conditions.
I'll make a motion to close the
Zini?
hearing. Yep.
I'll second it.
And Toby seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
So we'll get a copy of that. That to you. We'll make a copy, get a copy of that to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so next is number 11, public hearing notice of intent, DEP file number 06107XX, Gate Residential Properties LLC, 21 Revere Beach Boulevard, 5 levels of residential spaces, above 2 levels of parking. I have a motion opening public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open.
Ann made it. Vinnie seconded. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you again for the record. Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates, representing Gate Residential in the proposal for development of a mixed-use residential and retail project located at 21 Revere Beach Boulevard, also known as lots 3, 4, and 5. This site, similar to the other site, has an existing parking lot on it. It's about half paved, about 13,000 square feet of pavement. Runoff, essentially untreated, sheets into the Ocean Ave side. And our proposal would be to construct again, 2 levels of parking with 5 levels above it. The nuance on this one is that the Revere Beach Boulevard side is significantly higher than the Ocean Ave side. Vehicular traffic for the project would come in on the Ocean Ave side into the parking underneath, but there would be pedestrian access to the retail on the Revere Beach Boulevard side up at that upper level. So essentially, the streets at Ocean Ave's at elevation 6, Revere Beach Boulevard's up at 13. Our second level of parking would be about elevation 15, and down on the north side of that second level, there'd be a restaurant and some small, more seasonal shops in that area. But the balance of that second level would be parking, and then again, above that, up at elevation 25 or so, would start our residential apartments and work up on the 5 floors from there. So here we've got about, again, 13,000 square feet of existing pavement that will be largely replaced with building and clean runoff. There will be a 5,000 square foot exterior parking on the south end as we come in off of Ocean Ave to get into the building. Again, similar to the other project, we'll have capture there with hydrodynamic separators for treating that water, and that will connect into the same municipal drainage system that's in Ocean Ave. The roof drainage will go into similarly an infiltration area that's on the Revere Beach Boulevard side to help attenuate peak flows, to provide recharge, and there'll be an overflow from that'll wind around the north side of the building and go into the same municipal drainage system. This system's been designed in full compliance with DEP stormwater guidelines. It's also been designed to meet the Revere standards of 25-year storm attenuation. We've done similarly geotechnical explorations on the site. The infiltration area in this case is a lot higher because it's taking advantage of that elevation change up on the boulevard. So we're well in excess of the required 2-foot separation. Similarly, we're connecting the building to municipal water, gas, and other utilities, all available in Ocean Avenue. So we think another great piece to this 2-site project, and be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Joe, go ahead.
Hi. My question, you've answered it, I think. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this for the record. None of the flow, even from the roof and everything, will be coming on the boulevard side, is that correct?
No.
Everything's going?
The overflow will go, around to Ocean Ave.
Yeah. Okay. But again, because of the elevation and everything, that's the way the flow of the water goes now anyhow.
Exactly. All the water right now goes down onto Ocean, so that's the way it will continue.
There was a different situation when we were doing the area in the Shipwreck Lounge. because some of the flow was coming down on the boulevard side.
Yeah.
And that was only going across the street, so
Yep.
that was an issue, but it won't be here.
Not here. No.
Everything's going Ocean Ave.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Ian, Jim? No?
Is the property owner here?
Yep, he is here.
So these are both your developments, correct?
They are, yes.
Can you just come up and state your name and address for the record?
Damian Zari, Get Residential.
So you came all the way from White Plains, New York? for this
No, that's the current landowner with a contract vendee, so we have it under agreement, and we'll be acquiring the property at time of entitlements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience? Do I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
I make a motion.
Ian makes a motion. I have a second.
I'll second it.
Toby seconds it. All in favor?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do I have a notice to close up, motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
And do I get to talk about this correspondence? Do I have to talk about the correspondence? No. Okay. Do I have a motion to close the meeting? Adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
We are adjourned at 8:30 PM exactly.